What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. Before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and that the player ratings and potentials of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you could sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those who are out there who are new to the game and just need a little bit of advice, or for those of you out there who just want a few recommendations on what players you could sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. So yes, in today's episode of WTSF, we are going to take a look at Southampton. Yes, the Saints from St Mary's on the south coast of England. Excellent team to do a career mode with, and I'll get into why that is in just a moment's time. They start with a budget of around £32 million, and their objectives in the first season are really simple. Finishing mid-table in the Premier League, that is more than doable for a 4-star team like Southampton, and reach the last 16 of the FA Cup as well. Get through the third and fourth rounds and you have done it. Now Southampton, as I just mentioned, are a 4-star team. It's pretty decent, it's alright, it's nothing spectacular, that's the nature of a 4-star team, but what you'll notice is there is some decent young players here as well. But the Saints are a great team to use in career mode for multiple reasons. Being a top flight team that need a bit of a rebuild, need to build a club identity with them as well, but also a side that do have quite a few young players with some decent talent as well. There are several players that are in their first 11 that can still grow, as they're all in their early, I should say most of them are in their early 20s, but there are a few players that need to be replaced for the long term, as there are a few players that are in their late 20s or their 30s as well. The likes of Oriol Romeu, for example, 29 years old. Theo Walcott's now returned, of course, as an official Saints player. He's in his 30s. Then your two goalkeepers, Fraser Forster, Alex McCarthy, just went past Stuart Armstrong there as well. So it's a team that does need a lot of change if you're going to take the next level, but there are some decent young talents as well. Basically, as a base team, this is a really good side to use. So there are quite a few players that deals that come at the end of the year, some noteworthy players too. Fraser Forster, Alex McCarthy, two goalkeepers, Jack Stevens, Shane Long, who'll probably retire at the end of the first season. And I put 5 players on the transfer list: Forster, McCarthy, Stevens, El Unisi, and Sam McQueen as well. I wouldn't be adverse to selling Theo Walcott too. So for a 4-star team with a £32 million budget, the first thing I recommend doing is selling those players on the transfer list and raising your money. £32 million doesn't get you very far in today's footballing world, so that's the first order of business, I would say. The first thing we did was sell El Unisi for $7.25 million to Barcelona. Yeah, very interesting destination there for El Unisi. Didn't see that one coming, but fair enough. El Unisi goes to the new camp. And also Nathan Redmond. Now, I wouldn't necessarily put this guy on a transfer list if you don't want to. His deal's not upcoming the end of the year, so you want to keep him, feel free to do so. He's always been a very tricky winger. A lot of pace, a lot of flair, no doubt about that. But I've always felt Redmond is the sort of player that just never really kicked on, if you know what I mean. Like, he showed raw promise as a youngster, but he just never really became that star winger he possibly could have done. He just never really developed his game as much as I think he needed to take the next level. If you want to keep him, by all means, 27 years old in the prime of his career right now, that's totally fine. But if not, you can sell him for around 9 to 10 mil. We got 9 mil from Valencia as he goes to the Mestalla. And we also sold our 2 goalkeepers as well. With Southampton, both McCarthy and Forster, both English, both the same overall at 75, but both with their deals that come at the end of the year, and both in their 30s as well. Personally, it's time to look for new shot stoppers here at St Mary's. We sold Forster to Bournemouth, and you'll see the Alex McCarthy to KRC Genk deal goes through very soon after as well. Now, we don't get big amounts of money for those players. However, you'll notice with quite a few of the players we sold here with Southampton, their weekly wages were a little bit high based on their current valuation, how good they are for the team. You'll often find that, especially with Premier League sides, the weekly wages of some of your players who, I wouldn't necessarily call them deadwood players, if you will, but players that can be afforded to move on, they probably don't really justify the salaries they're getting paid. So selling them, you know, the transfer fees are nice, but most importantly, getting their wages off the books is the most important thing. But after those sales there, we raised our budget up, and the first new signing I would recommend with Southampton is a new winger. Now again, you've got abundance of wingers here, you know, Armstrong, obviously Walcott who's come back. Redmond and El Unisi left in this save. Then there's Janepo as well, the young talent. But I would recommend a new winger for Southampton. I had 4 on the shortlist. The 2 I'd recommend more than any other are Callum Hudson-Odoi of Chelsea, but also this guy who I have signed in the majority of these episodes because I love this guy to pieces. I've mentioned before, if you've not seen this guy play, watch some YouTube clips. He is just absolutely brilliant. He is just so skillful and plays with real flair. It is Noni Majuk, the young English winger who can also play up top and is now currently playing out in the Netherlands for PSV Eindhoven. I'd bring him back to his native England, and Majuk again can play up top or he can play on either flank. He's got 4-star skills, 4-star weak foot, absolutely electrifying pace, and really I would recommend him on the right hand side as an inside forward. You can play him on the left if you will, but being a left footed player, I love inside forward / inverted wingers in FIFA, so I'll play him on the right hand side to step in and shoot with the left foot. So yeah, we bought in Majuk. I definitely recommend as the first signing for this Southampton team with 88 potential. You know he's going to become an elite winger as the years go by. And after the McCarthy sale went through, we decided to bring a new replacement goalkeeper for him and Fraser Forster. This is definitely my #1 recommendation for an RTG goalkeeper in this year's FIFA. It is Diogo Costa of Porto. He is 75 overall to begin with, the same as McCarthy and Forster, however over 10 years younger than the veteran English pairing who we just sold to KRC Genk and Bournemouth, and he's got 86 potential as well. So just 21 years old, this guy's going to become one of the best goalkeepers in the game when he's at his peak. With dynamic potential, you can push him into the high 80s, possibly even sneak into 90 if you're lucky, but again, a long-term success for McCarthy and Forster. You're going to sell both of them in the first season, neither of which justify contract extensions, so Costa is the perfect replacement for those 2 English shot stoppers there. And for 9 million, which is what you can get him for as well, that's under the valuation. It's an absolute bargain for a goalkeeper who's going to be worth 10 times that amount in the future as well. So yeah, once we sold Costa, we sold another player. Sam McQueen's deal broke down. We had 2 bids here for Jack Stevens, one from Reading and also one from Besiktas as well. We negotiated the same fee with both of these clubs here, 4.3 mil. In the end, as you notice, just most time he opts to go to Reading, go to the Medeski Stadium and stay in England. Regardless, 4.3 mil for Jack Stevens. And following the sale there, again, we still had quite a lot of money to work with. So the following signing I decided to try and pick up was another goalkeeper, and I definitely recommend this guy as a backup as well. Etienne Green of St Etienne. Now there's Gavin Bazunu, who of course as we know is on loan from Manchester City at Fratton Park right now, playing for Portsmouth, but this is a guy, I didn't know who this guy was until the start of this footballing year. His name's Etienne Green. Now I believe he can represent both France and England, but has opted to play for England in the future. He's got such a cool name, playing for St Etienne and being called Etienne as well. But Etienne Green, you can get him for around £4 to £5 million. We spent £4.75 million on the young shot stopper. He just seems like a Southampton type of goalkeeper as well. Young English talent, 72 overall, 21 years old, and he's got 81 potential as well. So in the future, he'll be your backup. He'll be your backup now, and he'll be backup for the future as well. Just a really solid understudy for Diogo Costa. They're the same age, and again, he's not going to start in this team. Costa's free rating high. However, he can provide competition, and he's not much of a step down on the Portuguese goalkeeper either. It just seems like a Southampton signing, that Etienne Green, and I would recommend him for your bench. After you sold Forster and McCarthy, you got rid of 2 veteran English goalkeepers, but now a young one with some decent potential. So we still had some money left over. I decided to try and bring a new centre-half with Southampton as well. As we sold Jack Stevens, he's the 3rd choice here behind Salisu and Bednarek, who are 2 really awesome centre-halves. Now, of course, there is Lyanko in the reserves for Southampton, but at 70 overall, he's not quite, 72 overall, he's not quite good enough to be in your matchday squad on a regular basis. But there's 4 names on the shortlist there. The one I'd recommend the most is probably Popov of Ukraine and Dynamo Kiev. I really like this guy. He won't cost you too much. You can get him for close to the valuation. He's only 22 years old, but 73 overall, and his defensive stats are really, really good as well. 6'2", so reasonably good in the air with 77 jumping as well. I give him the stopper development plan, train up his relatively low pace, and give him a high defensive work rate as well. As an understudy, and I should say a cover centre-half, 3rd choice to replace Jack Stevens, he's 1 rating lower, but he's got 84 potential. So in the future, he can provide competition for Salisu and Bednarek, your starting CB duo. So after the season ticket money, we had just under £20 million still remaining in the budget. I did decide to try and bring in a new central midfielder here for Southampton. Obviously, JWP is the club captain, obviously out of the academy as well. He's going going nowhere, but you will want a long-term successor for Oriol Romeu, the Spanish holding midfielder. Several names on the shortlist. There are many of which it'll be great fits for Southampton. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the two I really wanted, but one player I certainly wouldn't say no to, and you shouldn't either, is Zubamendi of Real Sociedad. You can get him for close to valuation. We spent £11 million to bring him to St Mary's. Again, he's on a relatively low weekly wage, and at just 22 years old, 75 overall, this guy has 85 potential, so grows 10 ratings at his peak to 85 overall, with dynamic potential and get him to the high 80s. And one of the reasons I really like Zubamendi as a long-term successor for Romeu is because he's a great defence-based type of midfielder. He can play through the spine of the team. He's also really comfortable on the ball. He's 76 stamina as well. At 5'11", he's not too small either, but again, it's a long-term successor for Oriol Romeu. He's 7 years younger, and he'll most likely grow to become better than Romeu in just one season as he develops really, really quickly. So yeah, great bargain there for £11 million. The final thing I didn't need to do this, but I had a little bit of money left over, so I thought, why not? Was bring in a third choice goalkeeper. All three of your goalkeepers are probably going to leave in the first transfer window, if not at the very end of the first season. So I signed Gavin Bazunu from Portsmouth. As we know, in real life, he's a Manchester City goalkeeper on loan at Fratton Park, but in the game, he's registered officially at Fratton Park. So we signed him for around 2.4 mil. You can get him for, again, a really cheap deal around his base valuation at 66 overall. He's not going to be good enough now to start on your team, but he's only 19 years old and has 83 potential. So at his peak can provide competition with Etienne Green and also Diogo Costa as well. So in the L Southampton, what a busy window it was. We sold 5 players for just under 25 mil, but we signed 6 players for just under 58 million pounds. It was a net loss of around 33 million pounds in the end. But when you look at the team we bought in here, Southampton, this is a long-term project. This is an RTG. So we bought in Majuk and Diogo Costa as starters in this team. Then you've got Etienne Green, Popov, and Zubamendi all going on the bench. Zubamendi's probably going to start come the end of the season, and Gavin Bazunu in the reserves as well. Think long-term with Southampton. This is not a one-and-done type of team. Note this is a long-term RTG, and in the first season, with very generous objectives given to you by the board, very hard to fail those really in the first season, finishing mid-table and also reach the last 16 in the FA Cup. Yeah, it's quite a easy first season. So as we simulate the end of the season, we'll see how we get on. And as you can see, as the season comes to an end, I must say I knew we'd already done something quite bad as I was watching through the simulation, but I wanted to see where we finished in the league, and as you can see with Southampton in the first year, we finished in mid-table. Yeah, 11th place for the Saints in the end, 2 points off West Ham, and a top 10 finish at St Mary's, as you can see, way off the pace of the likes of the Red Devils, who won the title, Liverpool, Spurs and Man City, who wrapped up the top 4. In the year, we were 11 points off Aston Villa, who got the 7th and final European spot, but in the first season, you don't need to qualify for Europe in Southampton. It's not a board objective. It's not something I would advise going for in the first season. If you really want to push for it, by all means, full power to you. But really, we finished in 11th place with 48 points, 15 points off the drop. That's more than good enough for Southampton. That's stability, that's security, that's mid-table, and that's all the board are asking for. So yeah, really solid first season for Southampton. There is Ward-Prowse won the assist title with 12 in 38, which I thought was quite nice as well. Although defensively, I did find this quite bad. Diogo Costa, who I was like really thinking he's going to kick on and do really well in the first season. He only got 2 clean sheets in 28 games. That's pretty low. As for the Cups though, Spurs won the Carabao Cup, beating Man City in the final. Conte delivering the silverware already. Obviously doesn't count towards the objective, but still, I'll show you where we got to there. Locked out in the 4th round by Manchester City on penalties. And as for the FA Cup, the Red Devils won that. But as I alluded to a moment ago there, this was the bad thing we did this season. Mid-table finish in the Premier League, that's totally fine, but in the FA Cup, this was a bit frustrating. We were asked to reach the last 16, that's the 5th round. Unfortunately, knocked out 1 round earlier by the Championship side Birmingham City at home. Yeah, that's not quite as good as I was hoping for. So yeah, we failed our cup objective. That's quite embarrassing. We did hit our league objective. And as I mentioned before, despite my manager rating dropping to 67, in FIFA CM, so long as you hit your league objective 9 times out of 10, you are fine. You can fail the vast majority of your objectives, both off the pitch and on the pitch. But if you hit your league objective again 9 times out of 10, the board will keep you on and won't terminate your contract. Exactly what happened here, so that's totally fine with me. And again, with the Southampton team, don't forget this is a 4-star team. It's not great, it's not terrible, but it certainly needs a lot of work doing to it, and it's a long-term project as well. So with Southampton, think long-term. In the first season, finishing in mid-table, not getting European football, that's totally fine. You don't need to get Europa League football or even Europa Conference League football for season 2. All you need to do in the first year is just lay down the groundwork. Sell some of those fringe players, those deadwood players, those players that are in their 30s with their deals that come the end of the year, and look to replace them with long-term success. So we did that with our goalkeepers, Forster and McCarthy leaving, and we bought in Diego Costa, Etienne Green and Gavin Bazunu. We sold Jack Stevens, we bought in Popov. So yeah, it's the same with the wingers as well. You know, El Unice and Redmond, they're not exactly aging players. We can get better and younger, and we did that with the signing of Noni Maduke as well. You know, the 6 players coming in, 88 potential for Maduke, 86 for Costa, 85 for Zubamendi, 84 for Popov, 83 for Bazunu, and 81 for Green as well. Think long-term with Southampton. You don't need to do it all in the first season. You just need to lay the groundwork down early and start the preparations for your long-term RTG at St Mary's. Definitely recommend them though. They've got some lovely, lovely kits. Massive fan of the fur kit. St Mary's is a beautiful ground as well. And again, for a long-term RTG with some young players here already, with a team that does need quite a bit of transition and a rebuild as well, I definitely would recommend Southampton for a long-term, nice and chill to begin with RTG project for a Premier League side. But that will end today's episode of Who's Signed For, guys. Big fan of you watching. Really hope you have enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the episode, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you for the next episode of WTSF very soon.